Welcome to the Force Dyad Podcast, a Star Wars-centric podcast which aims to connect us fans to our fandom. Each episode, we discuss recent shows, movies, and what's new in books, comics, and gaming. We share our favorite theories and touch on our collectible hobbies, all in an effort to connect the galaxy far, far away to our own. And welcome to the Force Dyad Podcast, Episode 4. Tonight we're going to cover Cornered and Rampage, and you've got Jedi John and Obi-Sean sitting with you tonight.
Hello there. How we doing?
Oh, doing good, man.
Yeah. It's good to be back. Been off for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, a couple weeks. We got a couple episodes to cover.
Yep.
Really excited.
Coming off the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Did you have a nice weekend?
You know, I did. Traveled a little bit with kiddo and wife, and went to go play a volleyball tournament. My legs are sore. Too many jumps. I'm getting a little old. But yeah, it was a good tournament overall. Had a good time with the guys. It was
How's
enjoyable.
the shoulder?
The shoulder's still intact. It's still attached to my body. I thought I lost it at one point, but it was still attached. It just went numb. You know, normal stuff. Getting old sucks. So
Yes, it does. Every day you wake up and you're like, that didn't hurt yesterday. Why does it hurt today?
yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Yeah. What about your weekend? How was that?
Oh, it was good. It was very relaxing. I was on kid duty on Memorial Day since my wife worked. And I got to cut the grass, which is every adult male's favorite thing to do on the weekend.
Did
right?
you get a nice beer afterwards?
I did. I actually had I had some summer shandy in the beer fridge out in the garage, and so I did get to partake of the summer shandy. So
Nice.
and obviously the weather, the weather this weekend here was quite pleasant. Had the windows open. It was nice.
That's good. Yeah. We went to Louisville.
Louisville.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, got to see the city a little bit. Went to 4th Street Live for a night. That was a good time. Dude, my little dude was just jamming out. We got there before it turned into club time, but it really quickly turned into club time without us really noticing until it really went to club time.
Did you have the baby headphones?
We had the baby headphones on. He was just chilling, totally cool with it. And then we left because, it turned into a club. So time to get kiddo home. And, you know, again, getting old sucks. So,
And how about so Louisville's Kentucky in general is known for its bourbon. Did you get to sample some of the local wares?
Yes. Everywhere I went, I was like, what local bourbons do you have? Or sometimes beer. But yeah, we did do a couple. It was good. I did find on sale. Well, not on sale. I wouldn't call any of it on sale.
They were for sale.
They were for sale. But I did find a couple bourbons to bring home. Pretty excited to try those later. Should be a good time. One day we'll have to go to the Bourbon Trail. One day.
That would be amazing.
I'll make it happen. But
we'll plug our socials here real quick before we get
slam into the socials.
into the episode. So you can find us on Twitter at Force Dyad Pod, and then on Facebook and Instagram at Force Dyad Podcast. So yeah, come join us. I'm actually pretty active on Twitter, so if you want to come, comment on what you hear or just make fun of me and how I sound, feel free to. Follow us. It'll be fun, and we'll get some banter going back and forth. And if you're in the mood for something that isn't necessarily Star Wars centric and Marvel, DC, comics, other pop culture is your thing, why don't you hit up our mothership, Galactic Dads? They're at Galactic Dads pretty much on every social media platform, including the Untapped app, where you can join in their escapades to quickly develop liver cancer. But
it is a goal. It's a goal.
So, but anyways, no, the podcast is great. They have a really good time over there. Again, Galactic Dads on all your podcast platforms.
Yeah. It's a good time over there. They have a good time every cast. So give them a listen. Yeah, if you've got some time. So for us, the Bad Batch.
Yes.
Episode 4.
Cornered
came out. It's now been a week and a half for us to process that episode. And, well, there wasn't a ton that happened
Mm-mm.
exactly in the episode. I guess for a recap, real quick, we catch up with our team on the ship, which is
The Havoc Marauder.
Havoc Marauder. We have a name
Yes.
that we have found on Wikipedia.
And
Thank
maybe
you
it's
very much.
been there. We just now have discovered it. Who knows?
It probably was, but yeah, we found it finally.
Exactly.
So you're welcome, everybody. But we catch up to them. They're in hyperspace, traveling between planets, trying to figure out where they're going to go. And Omega wants to go somewhere that she can see for the first time, that's new, that she can explore. And they're like, we're trying to lay low, but they're out of rations.
Fuel and supplies.
Fuel, rations, food, supplies, everything.
And they're not exactly being funded by the Republic anymore,
And
so they got to do it on their own.
And they don't have money either. So they've got to figure stuff out. So they pick a planet. They land at the bay. Boy, Wrecker really tries to lay it on that guy. He's like, nope, you don't need to check our ID. He's like, you're right. I don't have to. And he's like, well, great. That was easy.
Nudge, nudge.
And
wink,
then he's
wink.
like, you going to do something for me? It's almost like reminds me of like Home Alone, the butler, like the luggage guy, Rob Schneider, right?
Oh,
He just-
Lost in New York?
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
puts his hand out, starts anytime now, anytime. But yeah, Wrecker's like, oh, we don't have that, so but they decide to go out to earn some credits, and they shoot, where am I at now?
Yeah, so they go into town.
Hunter takes Omega, sorry,
Along with Echo, who is
and Echo dressed up,
who is dressed basically like a droid at this point. He
Yeah.
looks like a big cyborg.
and he's trying to sell a bomb, an explosive to I guess you call it a pawn shop of some sorts. And he's like, oh, I don't want that. Like in the black market, yeah, that could sell for that, but I don't do that kind of business. And then he notices Echo, who he just believes is a droid because from the side that he saw him on, it's his robotic arm. So he really truly did look just like a droid. And Hunter's like, oh yeah, he's military grade. And so at first there's a small discussion about, you're really not going to sell me right now, are you? I mean, and when you think about Echo's past, he's been a slave of some kind already. So probably not too keen on going back into that lifestyle. But Hunter just tells him, yeah, once I give you the signal, you can leave and don't even worry about it. So he agrees, except he's like, I'm worth more than 2,000 credits. And so he tries to get 4. They settle on 3, call it a day. Good bargaining.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, during this bargaining, Omega, our curious child, has found something to follow. And so following it down the street, and even before that, like grabs the stormtrooper, the clone trooper.
The clone trooper stuffed animal. Or stuffed
doll,
Yeah.
whatever it was. She travels down the street, runs into a familiar face to us. We'll get to that later, but this person went unnamed. They were contacted by the landing strip, or the landing platform attendant, and promised money already. So they catch up to her. Oh yeah, you can trust me. I can help you find your friends. And instead they start walking the opposite way of the way she came. And as they're getting away, Hunter's tracking them. Realizes that she lost, contacts Wrecker, who also comes to the assist, so to speak. Hunter gets into a kind of a standoff moment with this mysterious person. And then Omega runs off after Hunter gets her free from we know it's a bounty hunter, so the bounty hunter. And then Wrecker's tracking Omega through the tunnel, I guess through the pipeline.
Yeah,
It's
they
like the
end up
underground.
meeting up in the sewer basically, and there's there's a fight that breaks out after Omega runs away, and
Again,
the bounty hunter gets the best of Wrecker,
which is
in this moment.
which is surprising considering the physical disadvantage that the bounty hunter should have been at.
But she
when
has
you come into
she
Wrecker.
has the tactical advantage, and
She
I think
does.
it goes back to what we talked about last time, with Wrecker being all brute strength and limited intellect,
Yes.
and how somewhat easy would be to overpower, out maneuver, outthink, out strategize someone like that. When we're talking about who would we clone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
Wrecker would be a great physical specimen, but mentally just not quite up to par.
exactly.
So he gets it handed to him, really, and Omega makes her way up top, finds herself basically looking down into, looking off the ledge of a building.
She finds herself cornered.
Crazy name of the episode drop right there. Crazy.
They said it. It's just like in Family Guy. Oh, they said it.
They said it. They did it. They get into a similar car chase to one that is reminiscent of episode 3, I would say. That's the one, right? Yeah. Episode 2.
Episode 2. Between
Episode 2,
Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Anakin and
I didn't know
Obi.
if you were talking about episode 3 of the Bad Batch or
Also,
well, because you're right. Episode 2 with Anakin and Obi-Wan chasing down Zam.
yes,
Through Coruscant.
correct. So you get the feeling of that again, jumping between cars, with, you're chasing somebody, they crash. Go figure. Everyone's kind of separated. Fennec. Well, there it is. The bounty hunter gets separated.
Name drop.
Fennec Shand. It's fine. Ming Na Wen. And then from there we move on back to the ship. Really, they get separated. Hunter gets away with Omega.
Yep.
Gets back to the ship. They get Wrecker back on board. During all this time, the ship needed a lot of repairs. So Echo has broken out. He pulled the L3 droid rebellion from the pawn shop. He's like, all right, boys, let's go to work. Took all the restraining bolts off. He just handed them to the pawn shop owner and took off with the droids and put them to work on the platform to get the ship back in order, while Tech was also scrambling their code.
Yep.
Which is another reason they needed to land, is because they needed to scramble their code for their ship so they weren't noticeable
so they
could be tracked.
Exactly. They couldn't be tracked.
So yeah, and then you close out the episode with them all back on board again. Nothing crazy happened in the episode. Few Easter eggs. Fennec Shand showed up.
Yep.
Pretty cool stuff. We'll cover a little bit more about her in a little while.
Another Easter egg was the planet they were on, Pantora. Has the planet itself has been mentioned in passing in previous media, but the first sort of visual of the blue Pantorans is actually George Lucas in Revenge of the Sith. He plays one of them outside of Chancellor Palpatine's opera booth or box suite at the opera. And so that little Easter egg is courtesy of TK 31788 of the 501st.
Oh, there you go.
So, but George Lucas actually plays one of plays one of those people from that planet. So that's a fun little Easter egg. And then you talked about the reminiscent or the similarities between the chase scene in episode 2 versus this episode. And if you listen to the speeder bike sounds, they're almost ripped straight from that chase scene. The engine sound, the purr, the roar, whatever, sounds almost identical to the ship that Zam flies. So it's again kind of a fun callback to episode 2.
Yep, absolutely.
So what would you give it for a
rating? Goodness, not a lot happened. It was cool to see Fennec. We saw her in the trailers already, so we knew she was going to show up eventually. I'd probably give it like a 7.5. Nothing crazy happened this episode again. It's a good filler. It's setting up bigger things again, which everyone can appreciate with a good long season. 16 episodes is plenty of a season to set up bigger things for later on in the episode, later on in the series. So there's some time, and we're only. Well, now we're 5 in. We're about to cover episode 5, so we're 5 episodes in, 1/3 of the way through. And, yeah, I think it sets up some stuff. At the same time, we didn't get a lot of new information. We got to see Omega being curious again. We got to see a new character show up. And Yeah, and they saved Omega.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was, and they got some money for Echo getting sold, but then leaving. It's a bad deal.
Yeah.
Bad deal for the Bad Batch.
It
Well,
worked.
good deal for the Bad
It worked
Batch.
out for them.
Yeah.
Not so much for the store owner. Yeah, 7.5. I would probably. I'm probably in that range. I might give it slightly higher just because of the action. But yeah, maybe 7.6, 7.7, something like that. As you alluded to, it was this episode's "What Does Omega Learn?" and it was "Don't talk to strangers." And so
It's very bad. Whenever somebody says you can trust me,
you probably cannot trust them, especially if you literally just met them on the side of a street. So, we talked about it the last episode about how she's constantly learning things, and this particular episode was don't talk to strangers. The introduction of who we will learn is Fennec was nice. The action scene, the chase scene, actually was really, really good. It was actually a really well done chase scene, and so that's the only reason I give it a slightly higher grade of like a 7.6, 7.7, something like that.
Yeah, IMDb had it 7.7, so we're right in there. Again, we're usually pretty close. We're usually pretty close.
Nailed it.
And I mean, some of those comments on there, it's so interesting how some people are like, "Oh, it's a great episode," then other people are like, "Hmm," and then, I mean, one of them, their first question was, "Where was Clone Force 99?" Because
yes,
didn't get to see a ton of them that episode.
That is true.
I mean, it's Omega focused, and we already said this from the beginning of the show that we thought that Omega was going to be the next character for young people to latch onto.
Much like Ahsoka was.
Much like Ahsoka was. So we kind of expected that we would get some very Omega-centered episodes with the Bad Batch there. I'm hoping we get bigger storylines with the Bad Batch, which I think is coming. So really the only theories on this episode...
Well, the big question is who is Fennec?
Who is number 2?
Yeah, who does number 2 work for? No, who is Fennec working for? Or who hired her? Because at the end of the episode, she looks up, vowing to keep chasing them, and that's really all you know is she's a bounty hunter, and she's been hired by somebody to track down Omega. So the big question is who. I posted a really long tweet theory on the Twitter page last Tuesday, and I think maybe after episode 5, it's kind of been trashed.
Maybe.
But anyways, if you haven't read it, first of all, go follow Force Diet Pod on Twitter. But my big theory was that that she's working for Cad Bane. And I had this whole big Always Sunny in Philadelphia, everything's connected conspiracy thing surrounding the fact that the last time we see Cad, or in canon see Cad, is helping to steal the plans for the Jedi Temple so that it can be bombed. This is in the Kanan comics. And that the plan is sort of thwarted. I mean, it's semi-successful, but the person who's carrying it out is stopped by none other than Deepa Billaba and initiate at the time, Caleb Doom. And it's after this interaction that Deepa takes Caleb as her Padawan. So that's the last time we see Cad Bane. And of course, we open Bad Batch with Deepa and Caleb, who they could have literally thrown Clone Force 99 anywhere in the galaxy, and they chose to throw them here with these two specific people. In the past, we know Cad to have worked with Sidious. He was actually part of the team that kidnapped the Chancellor, which happened at the beginning of episode 3 in the movies. And it would make sense that after Jango is killed, that Cad becomes the number 1 bounty hunter in the galaxy, basically. And so just like Jango had kind of a stable of bounty hunters, that Cad would start to build out his as well. And we also know that Fennec works for the Hutts, or has worked for the Hutts, and Cad works for the Hutts. So the connection was, that was my thought is how they bring back Cad Bane into the visual canon, and maybe give him the smugglers, or not smugglers, but like the bounty hunters demise maybe in future seasons that we haven't seen yet.
It was a good thread. There was a lot of string theory going on.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. This is connected here. This is connected there. And they're all one.
Yes.
My theory on that was just very much more simple.
Straightforward.
Yeah, we learned in episode 3 that Kaminoans wanted somebody back on the planet. And then the next episode, we have a bounty hunter hunting Omega. Mm-hmm. Who else knows about Omega being with the Bad Batch specifically? No one. No one that we know of. I mean, the Empire might know. Or I believe you said earlier, like, or the person that commissioned them to make Omega.
Mm-hmm.
So, but even then, do they know that Omega's with Bad Batch? We don't know.
They may know that Omega's missing.
They could know that. So, granted, you just say, find my clone, or find my
asset.
My asset, yeah. The asset. Oh boy, everything's connected. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then I mean, I really think that's it. There's no other people that we've met in the episodes so far, or anyone that we would think that's showing up that we've maybe seen in anywhere else yet. I mean, it could be Tarkin for the Empire, but I just don't know if he even knows who Omega is really, mm-hmm. versus just in passing as a medical assistant would have no idea what was going on. But Tarkin has been surprisingly insightful, so he may have known.
I was going to say aloof.
Well, sometimes.
So far, he seems, I mean, he's come across as slightly aloof, but yeah, I mean, it's, I think this episode purely is an introduction to Fennec. Well, again, who we later find out to be Fennec, although I think in the credits, she's actually named, yeah. Even though she's not explicitly named in the episode. And I don't even think the subtitles name her yet, although I could be wrong.
I didn't look at subtitles, but I know she was credited as Fennec Shand.
Right.
So, all right.
Yeah, so that wraps up episode 4.
Yeah, super straightforward episode, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing too crazy going on. Episode 5, Rampage.
Yep.
A little different story. We got a little more action. I don't know. You want to break that one down?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. So we're on the hunt for, who this bounty hunter is, and they go to, what is it? Ord? No, they go to. What's the planet they go to where they find? Anyways, Echo knows from his dealings with the Jedi that there's a specific informant that the Jedi had used for tracking. And so it was decided that they would go seek this person out. And for some reason, the planet escapes me, and maybe we'll figure that out later. But we get to this sort of billiard hall / arcade, and we're looking for, Echo says we're looking for a person named Sid. And there's only a handful of people in this place. And the person they speak with says, nah, you got the wrong place, you can go away. And Omega, using her childlike insight, we use air quotes there, determines that the person they spoke with, who looks a lot like Mama from the Dinosaurs TV show on ABC.
A little bit. She's a Trandoshan.
Yeah, I know who she is, or what species she is. But basically determines that this Trandoshan is who they're looking for. So they go into this back room, and basically they're like, hey, we need to figure out who is tracking us, and who hired them. And so basically it's a quid pro quo. Hey, you scratch my back, I'll dig up some dirt on who you're after. And so Sid instructs them to go to a Zagarian outpost, or if they go to Zagaria, I'm not entirely sure, but we actually talked about this in our very first episode where we broke down the trailer, and one of the things I mentioned was the Zagarian slavers that we see in the trailer, and looks like we get to visit them in this episode. And so all we know is that we're tracking down someone named Moochi, and that's all that's known. They arrive at this planet. I believe it's Ord Mantell.
Ord Mantell is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I knew you'd get there. I didn't want to give it to you.
Okay.
I you know.
So anyways, so we're tracking presumably a human or a humanoid type captive. And so the Bad Batch have spotted a outpost, and they find captives, and they find a young girl who they presume is Moochi. Hunter instructs Omega to stay with the ship, while the rest of them go. What was it? A smash and grab type sort of operation.
Yeah, it was gonna be real quick.
That's
like,
what they thought.
Echo, take the Eagle's Nest. We're gonna go.
Yep. So then they're sort of Echo is attacked by giant dragon-y thing. I can't remember the name of those, because that's that. I think they're named back in that, again, the Slavers arc from the Clone Wars, but for the life of me, I don't know what it looks like or what the name of it is. But anyways, Echo's attacked. The guys on the ground are attacked, and shortly after, they end up in shackles along with the rest of the captives.
That would be Brazak.
I was gonna say Brazak. Anyways, so Echo's attacked by the Brazak, who is basically controlled by the master slaver Sigarian.
Yeah, we don't have his name, I don't think.
Right. And so and so Omega is left on the ship, and the ship is searched, and Omega happens to escape and tries to communicate with the guys on her comlink, which she was given at the beginning of the episode. She thought it was a cool toy. Echo was made sure to tell her it wasn't a toy, and so she realizes that she can't get a hold of any of them, and she goes searching. She ends up finding them and is going to attempt some sort of rescue, I guess. She drops down into this cage only to find it snarling, and while she gets captured, she reveals that she's unlocked the cage, and out pops a baby Rancor, or an adolescent Rancor, I think is what it's a teenage Rancor. It's going through its puberty phase for the Rancor. And so while this is happening and everyone else is distracted, they're like, "Hey, we're going to get you out of here." Who they thought was Moochi was this girl, and frantically they're told, "That isn't Moochi. The Rancor is Moochi." And
simple smash and grab.
Right.
Simple.
Right, exactly. So, this was a detail, of course, Sid left out. And so the slavers need to recapture Moochi. The Bad Batch have to capture Moochi. There are fights. Hunter takes on call him the Master Sigarian at this point. And Hunter and Tech chase after, or is it Echo? Hunter and Echo chase after Moochi.
That's Tech and Rekka.
Yeah, Tech and Rika chase after, and Tech basically explains to Wrecker that you have to face it. You have to basically out alpha.
You got to be the alpha.
You out alpha the Rancor, and so the Hunter gets the best of the Zagarian, and Hunter eventually wears down the Rancor to the point where they snag them, or they can kind of capture her.
We did get a really cool Godzilla versus King Kong moment,
oh, that's true. I forgot about
Rancor
the
on
Brazak
just taking on each other, and the Brazak did not have a good time.
That's right. I did forget about that.
It did not have a good time.
Good point.
So now we know Rancor versus Brazak. Rancor wins.
Mm-hmm. And so now, this is cut in with a mysterious person who contacts Sid, basically wanting to know where their package is. Yeah, where the bounty is. Yeah. And so so Wrecker overpowers outlasts Moochi, and they're able to effectively package her up and take her back take her back to Sid, and we get the, I guess, our second Easter egg, of the episode with Bib Fortuna, entering Sid's office, I guess, and so looking for the package, looking for the bounty, and as Sid tells him that, she has her best people on it, Omega's riding the Rancor down the street, basically.
Yeah, they're now best friends.
They're BFFs. And so one thing that I kind of glossed over was, we kind of learn where Omega gets her her bow.
Yeah, she picks up the bow.
So it's a Zygerian bow, and it looks a lot like what would it be? The Needler. Like it's like it shoots needlers from Halo. I did see somebody post something on Twitter about that.
Ground loot's best, man. Ground loot's the best.
So they ride the Rancor back in. Bib takes Moochi off, and it's revealed to us that the bounty hunter chasing them is Fennec Shand, and that we still don't know who has hired her. Surprise, surprise. But that we do learn that it's a direct commission, meaning that she was hired directly to chase after Omega. So, that's really all we learn. And it doesn't even really...
And also that Sid can keep secrets.
Right, yeah. Wink, wink.
Yeah, a little worried about that one.
Remember, you can trust her, right? We just learned in the last episode that you cannot trust her. And so... I don't even think that aside from her saying I can keep secrets, it's really how the episode ends. And so, at the beginning, there is another mention of Wrecker's head hurting.
Yep, again. And
so, it's definitely something to do with the inhibitor chip at this point.
And I mean, every episode he takes a hit. Mm-hmm. In the last episode, we had Fennec Shand hitting him.
I think she threw his head into the pipe.
Yeah, and then in this, his helmet had come off that time. And then this episode, the Rancor and him go toe to toe, which honestly is freaking amazing. That the Brazak, no chance against this Rancor, but Wrecker, yep, stands a fight.
It's just sheer brute force.
Yeah,
and they just punch at each other for.
They are exhausted at the end of that one too. I love that text, just like, yep, losing his touch, way too long.
So yeah, as far as the episode goes, I mean, thoughts and opinions. It's
for the rating.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably give it. It's fun for some fan service stuff, as far as like having a baby Rancor, or a teenage Rancor, and seeing Bib Fortuna. But I don't know. I would probably give it a 7.4 or 7.5.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I like the action a little bit more, and I feel like we got more character details in this one. So I'd give it an okay 8. I mean, really, just because the action was good. You get to see a little bit more of, again, that curiosity from Omega, which we'll go into some of the details on that. But yeah, I'd give it an 8. IMDb scored it 7.6. So, and since episode 1, we've been laying just under that 8 for all the episodes. So it's just, I mean, it's a good show, and I look forward to another.
I look forward to it each week.
Yeah, I look forward to more. I think the biggest thing for me is just that, and I think we've heard a lot about it online already this weekend and over the weekend, that it just feels like it's Fetch Quest after Quest.
This was definitely Fetch Quest.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough not to see that in the writing, and they're like, we're just getting the Mandalorian over again, and I'm like, oh yeah, save the asset, go on an adventure with the asset, but get captured and then get freed. I mean,
it's one of those where because you do have such a long season, you have to lay. You can't just go a million miles a minute. I mean, not to say that this is on par with Game of Thrones, but we saw what happened when you rush
Yeah.
10 different things and try and cram them into like 6 episodes. So because they have 16 episodes, they can stretch it. Now, that's going to mean some very slow episodes. Now, I thought episode 2 cut and run, I actually enjoyed that just because of the broader messages that the episode has. I feel like if they would introduce some of these overarching messages of, character growth and development along with the chasing down of this thing or that thing, I think people would be more receptive to it. But when it's just not recycle, I don't want to say recycled, but we've seen this through 2 seasons of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think that this episode especially, I feel like it gave us more than just the fetch quest. Like, I feel like it gave us more character development, and you get to see them palling around a little bit more. Like, Omega got her comlink. Obviously, what does a kid do? You know what this reminded me of? That intro scene for The Office when Jim's just sitting there like, so the phone guy came in today and showed Michael how to use the intercom. And then he just left. Mm-hmm. He left. And then you just see Michael like doing everything you could. Thank you for flying on Dunder Mifflin Air, like whatever it was. Like, and as soon as she got the comlink,
hey, what does a kid do with a new toy, right?
Yeah, they immediately start playing with it, and that's not a toy. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it's just funny because even the comedy part of it, like they went to go find Sid, and well, they got told no Sid here, and then they start Hunter's. You could tell like kind of frustrated, like, well, where else are any more contacts? Blah blah. And Omega's just sitting there like, you're Sid, mm-hmm. And then over the comlink interrupts them. I found Sid. And then if you forgot any of their names while she was on that ship, I mean, she said them all. Hunter, Tick, Rekka, like all of them just went down the list real quick. And you're just like, oh man. But it was fun with the comlink because it gave a little bit of comedy to the episode, but it also, again, it's almost like she's picking up pieces of her armor mm-hmm. as we move through this season.
That's true.
So like, and this episode, we got 2 pieces added in, right? We got her comlink, and then she picked up her weapon, mm-hmm. her weapon of choice.
That's true. It's like an RPG. We're just slowly leveling up our character.
Yeah.
And like you said, find the ground loot.
And find the ground loot. And again, it goes back to, and it still goes back to our original theory of, is Omega Force sensitive? Mm-hmm. Either that, or she's got incredibly good
or she's
intuition,
really psychic,
or she reads people. We already know she reads people well, mm-hmm. whether that be force sensitivity or just some other abilities, similar to someone like Hunter. But Hunter didn't know, so it's something extra, mm-hmm. And it could be force sensitivity. But I mean, for me, it leans more towards that mm-hmm. because she picked her out immediately. She's like, "You're Sid." And then I love the thing, like, clearly the kid's in charge, and Wrecker gives her the high five. High five. I'm like, yeah.
It's like the big brother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool. Just a cool moment. And that just shows you how she's integrating into the team at this point. So that was a cool moment. And then we're setting up more stuff. I mean, we at the end of the episode, we see them, like, talk about Fennec again. And then we also got Bib Fortuna, again voiced by Matthew Wood, who's done it all the time. We'll get back into him in the next segment too. But after that episode, really the theories that we already have still play. Mm-hmm. We still don't know who the bounty hunter or who Fennec Shan was hired by. And then I guess the thing is now, I mean, we still got another head injury again. Mm-hmm. Like, we still got him holding his head, and at some point, it's going to break some point. I don't know when it's going to be.
That's what I'm curious about, is what's going to trigger it.
Yeah.
Now, before we go into that, one of the things, and I guess this, they do touch on the Zagarians' business model, which is slavery.
Yeah.
And what is Omega learn about this week? She learns that some people treat other people as property, and
And she already knows that's not right.
yeah, exactly. She realizes that she's like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's interesting because if you think about certain things, well, I mean, we all know the history of slavers and stuff like that with Anakin and Shmi and stuff like that. But you can almost look at the clones themselves as, in essence, a slave
Property.
I mean, they are, right.
They get bought and paid for. They're bought and paid for.
Right, and
every single one of them.
And they're treated as totally expendable and given no value and that sort of stuff either. And you can tell in the way that Echo speaks versus some of the other guys. Tech is very matter of fact, as expected, in how he explains stuff. But Echo almost has this personal, this emotional response to it in the way that he speaks and explains things to Omega. And so I think as a reg, right, where your job is to follow orders and you really have nothing outside of being a soldier, I think if you look at it through that lens too, that maybe Echo kind of, I don't know if he realizes it or if he senses it, but you can definitely tell that there's some sort of emotional, even though he's not physically enslaved,
right.
He has that sort of.
I think also like when we met him in season 7, I mean, he was a captive, and now like you can say there's a lot of different definitions for slavery, but I mean he was a slave, just giving the separatists information on the clone
against
battle
his will,
schemes.
right?
Yeah, and so like he firsthand experienced it. So yeah, there should be some emotional attachment still to that word and that lifestyle and how wrong it is. So
yeah, and every clone that has an inhibitor chip that functioned reacted against their will, basically in carrying out their specific order. So, and we look at Crosshair and the fact that he's being turned into this death machine, basically.
Who now we've gone 2 episodes without seeing, and I'm getting kind of mad.
Well, isn't it 3?
No, episode 3 was the replacements.
Oh, you're right.
So yeah,
your call. Yep. So yeah, we've gone 2 episodes without seeing him.
And I want more of him because he's the dark side of the show. Like I want to see that. Like,
right.
And call me black-hearted if you want, but like I want to see the dark side come out. Like not necessarily dark side, but I want to see the.
That's the wrong universe. I think he's DC, right? I made a joke. I made a crossover joke.
Jeez. Gosh, somebody get something.
Where's the?
Yeah, I'm not playing that sound.
No, you're not. All right, fine, that's fair.
But yeah, I want to see the darker side of the show, and I want to see more about the Empire and its upcoming, and what's going on. Like, we left Camino, and we don't. I mean, yes, we already know that they're going to try to move forward with the other like the volunteer soldiers and everything else for loyalty reasons and stuff. But I want to see more of it. And I know we're supposed to focus on Clone Force 99, but at the same point, I want to see more. So, yeah, maybe we'll just do a whole series.
What are the
Tarkin?
Oh, that would be cool.
I'd watch it.
I would watch that. I mean, I going back to who hired Fennec, the only other person, and I don't know if he would have any sort of sway in hiring anybody or pushing to get anybody hired, but Crosshair knows that Omega is with them.
So the Empire might know then.
I mean, he knows that they escaped, and he knows the ship because it's his ship, or not his ship, but he was on the ship. So
But would he have the resources to hire a bounty hunter?
I don't know, but he may. I mean, we know that he more or less snitched on Hunter for not taking care of Caleb.
His report might be complete.
And so it's very possible that Tarkin, or again the Emperor, at this point has hired the bounty hunter directly. I don't know. It's just something where.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about
that. Crosshair is the only one who would know who everyone is, as well as knowing that Omega was with them, or a child. I don't know if. Well, yeah, because he knew her name. So, but yeah, I think the way that they touched on the whole slavery backdrop, I think it encapsulated it well enough for a children's show, to kind of explain what was going on. But I think also if you look further into that backstory with the clones in general, as well as if you think ahead to the sequel trilogy and the fact that they were conscripting children, basically taking children from, and not to say that the Jedi were immune from that as well, but from a slavery in the Star Wars universe can take on can be seen through different lenses, whether you look at it through the Jedi's lens of taking young children and training them, the Empire and the First Order by taking young, we see it in Rebels, taking young children to grow them through the Empire. So it's like it Star Wars puts an interesting lens on that particular topic.
Yep. Okay. Well, that pretty much locks up the theories for this week, right? We don't have anything else going on for theories, right?
No more theories.
So we got a new segment to show you guys. Really excited for this.
I'm excited.
He's one of my oldest friends.
Yeah, so Babu Frick, my oldest friend. So in this segment, we're going to break down just a couple characters that either we meet in the episode or some episodes we won't have very much because, well, in some episodes we only meet one other person in some cases. So we're going to do our best to pick out a character that we've seen somewhere else in the universe, and we're going to break them down on what they did in the show specifically, which we already covered a little bit of, and then where we catch up to them in a galaxy far, far away. So this week we're going to cover from episode 4. Fennec Shand showed up as the bounty hunter. We met her previously on the Mandalorian TV show in season 2. And season 1 we met her originally, but we last saw her in season 2. During the season finale, we saw her with Boba again, announcing the Book of Boba.
The Book of Boba.
Very excited for that show to come out in December 2021.
Oh yeah, right, because the Mandalorian season 3, it got pushed.
Yes,
That's
it did. Right. First time we met her, played by Meng-Na Wen. It was in Mandalorian season 1, while the Mandalorian was on Tatooine, helping out a fellow bounty hunter track down an assassin. And immediately, Mando knew. Din Djarin knew that, Fennec's no joke. If you're going after them, you're dead.
Yeah, that she was like the premier assassin. In the galaxy. Well, one of them, anyways, in the galaxy. She was her reputation certainly preceded her.
Yeah. So naturally, Mando was in a situation where he needed cash money.
Quid pro quo.
So
the Han Solo wannabe sitting in Han's seat in the cantina.
Yeah.
In the same almost way of sitting with his foot up on the table.
He really was. He was showing off.
Exactly.
I would have been doing the same thing.
Totally.
I don't even have to be in the show. I'll do the same thing right now. They agreed. Went after her. She got a few shots off on Mando, but Mando using some just tactical advantages with blinding lights and against a night vision scope, basically got up to her and took her down. And then the bounty hunter, whose name has escaped me just now, which is just awesome.
Oh, you mean the guy that he's working with?
Yeah. Do you remember?
I did. It's funny because I actually looked this up last week on Wikipedia to try and get background on Fennec specifically. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, because it was in episode 5. I think it was a gunslinger. Mm-hmm. It was Toro Calican.
That's right, Toro.
But he realizes that, hey, she's not worth as much as Mando is, so I'm gonna go get Mando instead. What an idiot! So he actually ends up shooting Fennec, and then at the end of the episode, we hear the Spurs show up. And she was on her way to meet somebody, and I don't know if she was meeting Boba Fett or not. We never really got that answer if it was actually to meet Boba or if it was to meet someone else, but it was a bounty hunter coming to Boba. Could be. Mm-hmm. So Boba fixers her up. We catch up to her in season 2. They tracked Mando to a planet so Boba could get his armor back. And then, well, we all know the fight ensues. And then Fennec is basically on Mando's side for the rest because until they get the child back, their promise is not fulfilled.
Well, that's the episode where Mando loses the Razor Crest, I think.
Yeah, he lost everything that episode. He had nothing left.
Yeah.
Except for a spear.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and then in the last couple episodes, we see them just do work together. And Fennec Shand, at the end of the series, sits on Jabba's throne with Boba.
Well, she
taking
almost
a drink.
She almost takes Bib's. She almost takes like Bib Fortuna's spot behind Boba as Boba sits on the throne.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and speaking of Bib Fortuna, that is our other character from episode 5. We're just doing a quick dive on. Matthew Wood plays him again. He was the man in the fat suit for Bib Fortuna for the final episode of The Mandalorian also. And it's crazy how, I mean, we caught up with two characters this season, or this last 2 episodes that shared the screen briefly in the live-action Mandalorian show in season 2. So Matthew Wood played him again. He was the voice of him in the show. And we get a much younger Bib. This is about 20 years prior to Return of the Jedi, I would say, right? 18 to 20 years?
yeah, because Endor is that 3 years or 4 years after Battle of Yavin? I think it was 3, right? So yeah, 20,
Yeah.
22
20-ish.
years, somewhere in there.
So yeah, we got a much younger Bib trying to get a Rancor.
Yeah.
Rancor for Jabba. We didn't cover a whole lot of Moochi during our recap, other than it was the adolescent Rancor. Moochi was a female Rancor. That was not the Rancor that was killed in Return of the Jedi. That was Patissa, for all of those nerds out there that need to know names of every creature in Star Wars universe. And he was a male Rancor, and obviously a fully grown one.
Yeah, I didn't even. You told me that before we jumped on the air. Yeah, jumped on the pod. I didn't even know he had a name.
Yeah, you know what? Know who else had a name?
No.
The caregiver.
Yeah,
for
the dude,
Rancor.
the guy without the shirt. The shirtless man.
That was Malakili.
Oh, okay.
And that comes from the word. It's Hatiz for friend.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I had his action figure at one point in my life. Not one of these.
Oh.
No, it's one of the old school.
One of the old 3.5 inch.
Yeah.
Tall ones.
Oh yeah. Pretty cool stuff though. And I mean, a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's the Rancor," and a lot of people were like, "How did they introduce us to this sweet baby Rancor that Omega was riding, and then we know what happens to that thing?"
I saw so many tweets, with the crying face emoji, just because they're like, "We love Moochi," and then Moochi ends up
Crushed by a door.
crushed beneath the door. No, I mean it's so I've actually just started. I decided to dive into the world of comics, and I bought the High Republic, all the first 5 issues, and in the 5th issue, not to give away spoilers or anything like that, but there's a hut with a Rancor and Gamorrean guards. So Rancors are very, they seem to be as common as like a household dog or a cat would be for the huts. So it's
kind of cool.
It is neat. I don't know how I would be interested to know where Rancors come from. Do you raise them like, Pokemon, where they just, they have to fight to get stronger? Like, do you put them in pits where it's sort of an attrition type thing and you end up with an alpha? Like, you got the caregiver fella from Return of the Jedi, and maybe I need to do some research into Rancors and touch base next episode. But that was, yeah, it's, as you said, the theory of Moochi as, Return of the Jedi Rancors is quashed pretty soundly.
So it's a little crazy because they're actually in multiple places, but we do see them on Dathomir. We've seen them, and this is in either any place in the Star Wars galaxy. So we're talking in video games, in
I think it's in the Son of
Comics.
Dathomir comic series with Maul and that one.
Yeah, so Dathomir, Felucia, and obviously we've seen them on Tatooine. So pretty cool stuff. There are 3 different subspecies of Rancor.
Jeez.
The Jungle Rancor, Rage Rancor, and Shadow Rancor. Pretty interesting.
The Rage Rancor. I wonder if that's, the Jungle Rancor is going to be on Felucia because that's a jungle planet. Because that's where we see Ayla Secura in Revenge of the Sith with her team. Shadow Rancor would make sense to have it on Dathomir, and Rage Rancor would make sense to have that one on Tatooine. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the Rage Rancor... I know it was from Star Wars Commander.
Is that a game?
It is a game. Yeah, I think it's a mobile game. Yes, it is a mobile game.
Interesting.
Yeah. From 2018. No, release date 2014. Sorry. But yeah.
But yeah, so you got the Rancor, you got Bib,
And you got Fennec Shand. All from other parts of our great universe. And that'll close out our new segment. So hopefully you guys like that. If you guys have anyone you want to know about, and like I said, we'll try to pick a character out of every episode. At least do our best to. It kind of depends on what the episode gives us in some cases. But if not, we might get we might do a deep dive on a random character that we're like, you know what? Let's just pick this one.
Yeah, and maybe we can find a tie back to, to somebody in the episode if it's not a direct character, and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so knows or is affiliated with this person, and tie it in that way if there's no direct relationship to a specific episode.
Yeah. But cool stuff, though. And we'll probably deep dive into those characters a little bit more. We've got to fine-tune things on the podcast here, figure stuff out. Did you want to talk about the High Republic at all? I know we both picked up the issues. I haven't got a chance to read them yet. If you want to dive in, that's fine. If not, if you want to save it, that's okay, too.
Well, I definitely don't want to spoil it for you, because I want you to... I can do kind of a high-level thing that will be spoiler-free. First of all... this is my first comic book that I've ever read. So
nerd.
I know. I posted about it on Twitter, and I was like, I know, mock away. So for me, the first issue was just trying to figure out how to read a comic book.
It's different
because some go left to right. Some cells go left to right. Others go down the page, all the way down left, and then cut over all the way down right. And so I feel like the first issue, which I splurged and I got a first edition.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of that one.
Of number 1 with the original cover art, and it showed up in what I would perceive to be excellent condition. I mean, it could be like an 8, I don't know, but I am planning to get it graded.
Yeah, looking at those corners, dude. The corners are important,
and the corners look really good. I mean, the corners are going to be just like it's going to be just like Pokemon cards, any other trading card. Look at your pop boxes, basically the edges, is there whitening, that sort of stuff. And I kind of already did a quick once over, and it looks quite mint. And so as far as collectibles go, it's pretty cheap. It's only $20. And so, which I know for a comic is expensive because comics themselves are $4, $3 to $4. But anyways, so I spent the first issue basically learning how to read a comic book, which kind of felt goofy.
Did you have to read it twice?
So I'm a slow reader in general. And so, yeah, I did reread a couple things. There were a couple issues where I found myself flipping back and going, wait, oh, this is probably what's happening here. And so, but yeah, I won't get into too much of the details. I mean, if you've done any sort of research into the High Republic books, or anything like that, I mean, you might be familiar with some of the characters, as far as the new Jedi, or the new, you got the new Jedi, you've got your Padawan who you pick up with. But as far as the story goes, I find myself quite enjoying it. Similar to the Bad Batch, you've got some issues that are like, a little slower. some that don't make a whole lot of like parts that don't make sense. But then I found myself with the last issue, getting to the last page, and I kind of had goosebumps because of how it progresses. And the fun thing, and maybe those of you who read a lot more than I do, just in general, I found myself giving them accents, reading them how I would imagine.
Well, you have to create a voice for them.
Right.
For your
So,
character, yeah.
so like, there's a Trandoshan Jedi, and so everything is a hissing, and it's written that way too. So, God bless Kevin Scott for, having to write. Well, I guess that's the illustrator doing the physically writing it into the text bubbles and stuff like that. But because that is said, and it's not just the name; it's almost everything that he says has a at the beginning of it. But I found myself giving voices to some of the characters. Like there's a little I don't even know what you call it, but like an imp that has wings in the first issue, and I found myself giving it like this really high pitched, annoying sidekick voice, and and so you're reading through it, and you have this voice in the back of your head, and I'm sure that's how you're meant to read it. Maybe, I don't know. I assume you're supposed to give it voices to make it interesting, but I actually pre-ordered issue 6 and issue 1 of the new War of the Bounty Hunters that's coming out in June. I pre-order them with Justin's Comics, who I know get shout-outs with the Galactic Dads, but I'll give him a shout-out here too.
He's a good guy.
Super easy.
I've only been to his store a couple times, and because it's a little bit of a drive for me. It's still a bit of a drive for you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he always does. I mean, he's been super nice every time I've been in there, and then super helpful, and he's got good deals for the most part. So yeah,
exactly. So I pre-ordered issue 6, which comes out on the 30th of June. So I have a whole month to wait, which sucks, especially since they're relatively quick reads. And but the thing I'm also excited about is, like I said, issue 1 of War of the Bounty Hunters, which I don't know if it ties into the existing one because I was on the website and I saw they're on issue 14. But this one, again, number 1, and it's got Boba Fett on the cover with Slave One, and it looks awesome. So I bought a couple issues of that because it's number 1, and so
just in case it takes off,
right?
Just
in case,
yeah.
just in case, and then one to read, of course.
Hey, by the way, that we're collectors here, so
and just what I need, don't tell my wife, but just another thing I need to start collecting is comic books. So I did tell her it's a cheaper
hobby than your Lego minifigs. Yeah,
I mean,
it's much cheaper than action figures.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I mean, except if you get to the point of a comic that you're like, I have to have all these issues, that gets expensive.
Yeah, and I don't
just
know.
Stick to modern.
Well, and so I put it out there on Twitter. When I posted my photos of the 5 issues that I bought. I said, hey, you got any recommendations? And a couple of people commented, which was nice. But in doing some research, I would be really interested in reading the Sons of Dathomir, Darth Maul. Like that would be really cool. I know that Star Wars itself has a vast history of comics. The Vader comics would be cool to read. And then I also need to just dive in more into the novels, and I'd like to do that for the pod, not just my own enjoyment, but also to provide additional content for the podcast that a majority of people probably aren't going to
sit down and read.
Exactly. Everyone's going to watch The Bad Batch. Everyone's going to watch all the movies, all the shows, etc., which, we want to provide content for. But I think print media is, well, I know it's certainly the forgotten media.
Yeah, it's a little tougher to digest in some cases, and it's time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the novels are obviously hundreds of pages long.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you have to find time and make time to read those things, and it's tough to do sometimes, especially when everyone's used to getting info on new things and like a 20-minute like nutshell. Like, hey, just break it down for me real quick. I just need the bullet points. Cool. And that's probably what we'll do with the book once we get through it. That way we can give you guys that 20-minute summary of what happened and how to keep up with people like Thrawn and what he's up to these days
Right.
in the galaxy and where he's at. So it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've talked about it before. There's such a breadth of or a depth of characters, history, both legends and canon, that is explored in the books, and for the movies, even the movie novels explain a lot more, because you can do so much more in a book as opposed to in 2.5 hours on a screen.
Yeah. Just don't walk into like a used bookstore and go to the Star Wars section where it's bookcases as tall as my shelves of action figures full of EU stuff, because once you pick up one set of series, you're gonna be like, oh, there's 4 more books that I need to read on this. And there are a lot of novels that are, I mean, really well written stories, and now they're legends, but still like lots of content.
Well, and I just saw today, it looks like, and maybe this is not new, I don't know, but it's new to me, that they're re-releasing some of the Legends books. So like Heir to the Empire is being re-released with a new cover and stuff like that. And I think I saw one other book, but I'm sure they're going to do it kind of as a rolling series where they're going to pick out some of the more popular Legends books, which I don't know to what extent Thrawn is Legends anymore versus canon. I mean, he's there. I don't know what his backstory, and that would be something I'd love to dive into going forward. But, if you want to read about Thrawn, I think there's 6 or 7 books now. I mean, you have the Thrawn trilogy, and then you have the 2 new ones that just came out, and then you have Heir to the Empire, and I think there might be another one. And all of those have Thrawn in it. So
it's gonna be good.
And Tim's on writes them all, and so it's all really well connected. So I wish I need to find the time to read those.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, that wraps comics and books.
And books.
Nothing crazy in the video game world right now. We're still anxiously waiting for any more announcements or teasers on any of the new Star Wars content coming for gaming.
Mm-hmm. I think Jedi Fallen Order 2 is supposed to come out next year.
It is coming out next year, along with, what was it? We're 2 years away from getting...
the Ubisoft Star Wars open world Star Wars game.
Yeah.
So
we're still waiting on more for that. Very exciting stuff, obviously. We can't wait to get more of our Star Wars gaming in. And yeah, I mean, can't wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that'll wrap up the episode. You have anything else, Obi-Sean, over there?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from you. All right. Well, until next time, give us a like on, follow on Twitter, like on Instagram. Come check us out and talk to us.
Yeah, give us a follow or subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. If you can rate us, or if you can rate us,
even better.
Please do so. It really helps out the podcast. And so until next time, may the Force be with you.